Burning Bridges, an Aliens Fanfiction, written by Kruger, also known as Admiral Katz on fanfiction.net, at Sailing Bunny on Twitter, and the Sailing Rabbit on AVP Galaxy. Read by Kruger and edited by Denal Douglas. This story follows a different timeline to the current alien universe. Some characters have been changed to reflect this timeline. Chapter 6 2135 Waite stood in an elevator with 5 other people and a working Joe android. He was in the back, watching everyone's individual movements. The air was strong with the smell of coffee and cigarette smoke. One of the men turned to the guy standing next to him, saying, "Taking my wife out tonight for the first time in a while." "Nice, Hughes," his companion said. "Where are you going? I think there's only 3 restaurants left on the station." "We're going to the fancy little place inside the mall." "I heard they'll be closing soon. Don't know how long. I think the owner said he's giving it another 6 months to a year. If he can't keep up with expenses, he's packing up and heading to Gateway. Lots of space and a good spot for business." "That's a shame. It's a cute place." Hughes put his hands in his pockets. The elevator stopped. A few people, including Waits, got off. He didn't feel 100% prepared to question Hazleton about the state of the armory, but it was something that had to be done. After swiping his card to get into the bureau, he caught several of the other marshals glancing at him. Sighing, he walked over to Hazleton's desk. "Sir, mind if I talk to you for a minute about something important?" Hazleton looked up, setting his coffee down. "Is it actually important, or is it just important to you?" Waits took a breath. "It's actually important." "All right, shoot." "Why is the armory practically empty? I went in yesterday to clean my revolver, and all I see in there are more revolvers and shotguns. No armory I've ever been in has just that. Every armory has at least 1 full-auto weapon for each marshal. This is completely against regulation what we have here." "It's been like that since before I came here," Hazleton replied. "And why didn't you fix it?" "Didn't think it was necessary. Nothing is broken. Every gun in there works. It's against regulation." "Well, I'll let the higher-ups decide that. I'm not messing around with it." Something started flashing on Hazleton's desk. He pressed a button. "Marshal Bureau." "Hazleton," a male voice on the other line said. "It's Seeks and Security. Civi's ship just docked. All the passengers are in quarantine right now. We've got their luggage, but there's something wrong here. Some kind of toxic gas leaking from one of the bags." "Hold tight, we'll be right there," Hazleton replied. "Do we have any CBRN gear?" Waits asked. "No. Before you say anything, there wasn't any when I was put in charge here." "Then why didn't you order any?" "Never saw the need. We have basic hazmat suits. Go put one on if it makes you feel better." There was no time to be questioning Hazleton on how well he was trained to handle this kind of emergency. Waits gave a growl of displeasure before heading into the back of the armory to put on a hazmat suit and gas mask. He was trailed by Marshals Turner and Ricardo. Whatever was leaking in the ship would have to be sealed up in something airtight. If the station didn't have proper gear for a CBRN attack, then a sealing container probably wasn't available. Unless... "Turner, Ricardo, keep heading to the spaceflight terminals. I'm going to the hospital," Waits said. "What for?" Ricardo asked. "Get something to seal the bag." San Cristobal was already on standby to receive patients possibly exposed to whatever had been on the ship. Waits could see Lingard placing needles of antidotes in a case. He walked up to her, kneeling before pulling up his gas mask. "Hey, I need something from you." Lingard removed her mask. "What?" "You get any of those big cases for sterilized equipment?" "A few, yeah." "We're gonna need one to put the leaking bag in. Mind if I borrow it?" Lingard looked a little hesitant. "What's the matter?" Nothing." "Look." Waits leaned in to whisper. "I wouldn't be asking you for something like this if it wasn't important, okay? I'm not saying do this or I'll wreck your career." "I know. Besides, this will save a lot of people. I know that's what you care about." Lingard took a breath. "Morley?" "Yes." Morley turned to face her. His face, too, was obscured by a gas mask. "Make sure all these antidotes are in order. I have to get something for the marshals." "All right, go ahead." Lingard stood up, giving the case to Morley before gesturing for Waits to follow her. "We keep equipment like that in a restricted area. Stay out in the hall." They headed down several winding corridors. Dark, winding corridors. Waits kept glancing over his shoulder out of nervousness. "I don't think I'll get over how creepy this place is." "I think you'll get used to it after a little while longer," Lingard replied. "Were you scared of hospitals before?" "No. Why?" "Then you should get used to it fairly soon." "Ah, whatever you say, Doc." Lingard stopped at a heavy-looking door with a passcode lock. Waits looked away as she put in the code, and disappeared inside. He looked down at his boots, and folded his arms over his chest as he waited for Lingard. She came out of the room a few minutes later, holding a large case. "Put whatever you need inside, then make sure these 2 buckle pieces are snapped shut, and press the center button to seal it completely. If you hear a hissing sound when you press it, it means there's a leak and it's not airtight. I just tested it. It should work fine." "Thanks," Waits said. "Good luck." Lingard paused, but before Waits could leave the hallway, she called, "And please be careful." Waits turned around when he heard that. Lingard couldn't see him smile with the gas mask on, so he gave her a thumbs up and a wave. $21.75. Eyes bleary from sleep, it took Gorman a moment to realize it was only 3:30 in the morning. He sat up, rubbing his face and gradually feeling each of his senses waking up. He had gone to sleep late last night. Why was he up so early? He looked to his left to see no one was sharing the bed with him. While the bed wasn't exactly big enough for 2 people, it wouldn't have mattered to him or Lydia. Her first apartment had a very small bed, which they shared when they were ready to see how they liked sleeping together. Gorman had struggled with it, not because he didn't appreciate Lydia's company, but because it was a feeling he wasn't used to. He tossed and turned, and accidentally pushed Kitten Pixie off the bed. He wasn't sure when he finally fell asleep. A clattering noise jolted him from his thoughts, and he became aware of the fact that he wasn't alone in the room. It sent a chill down his spine. He took his robe from the edge of the bed and quietly crept toward the source of the sound in the bathroom. He became a lot less anxious when he heard a woman's voice hiss, "Shit!" Giving a quiet sigh, Gorman approached the bathroom doorway and saw Towers filling his soap dispenser with a green dye. The top of the dispenser had fallen on the floor. Towers paused when she noticed him in the mirror and turned around. She looked shocked that she had been caught. "What are you doing up?" she whispered. "I was just about to ask the same thing," Gorman replied, along with, "What are you doing in my bathroom?" "Nothing. I know I just woke up, but I'm not blind or stupid. What's that you're putting in my soap bottle?" "Green dye. Because St. Patty's Day is next week." "Is it going to stain my hands?" "Only for a day. Or 2. Gorman folded his arms over his chest. "Dump it. Right now. All of it." Towers reluctantly emptied the dispenser in the sink, face red with embarrassment. "Are you going to punish me?" "I think your prank failing is punishment enough. Rinse the dispenser and put more soap in it." Towers did what she was told. As she put more soap in, she glanced at Gorman. "Can't believe I didn't hear you get up." "Silence is an essential skill for a vent rat. Plus, you're probably not used to me waking up in the middle of your antics. Did you need to pee or something?" "No. Just woke up and couldn't get back to sleep." Towers looked at him a little more sympathetically. "One of those nights or bad dreams?" "I think it's just one of those nights." Towers fell silent. "Sorry." "Not your fault." Gorman looked her in the eye. "I'll give you a choice. You can stay and talk, or go back to bed." "If I stay and talk, you're not going to tell anyone about it, are you?" "No." "Okay, I'll stay." Towers rinsed her hands and followed Gorman out to the bed. They both sat cross-legged on it. "I used to do this at friends' houses when I stayed the night. You know, sit up late and talk. Didn't talk about much, though. Just boys, school, hair, and periods. Girly stuff." Probably fun at the time, but I'm guessing that changed as you got older. Yeah, I date, but no one's ever stuck with me for more than... Towers looked down at her lap, embarrassed. A night. Really? Yep. Sounds like you're really hanging out with the wrong people. Well, in the nights I was waiting to be finally assigned to a unit, some of those wrong people were Marines. Nothing really happened, just awkward kissing and changing from me to some other girl. Stuff like that. Fresh graduates as well? Towers nodded. They'll learn. My wife was actually my first and only girlfriend. I wasn't really interested in dating when I was in high school, or when I first joined the Marines. I was a nerd, in the gifted programs, spending much of my free time in the library, that sort of thing. I actually taught myself Irish over the course of my sophomore and junior years. Is that a big part of your family history, being Irish? Yes, both my parents have predominantly Irish ancestry. My grandfather, on my dad's side of the family, had a huge chart of family history dating back to the late 1700s, I think. My father inherited that chart when Granddad passed away a few years ago. I'll have to take another look at it next time I visit. Anyway, about the dating. I was, and still am, pretty introverted, and wasn't among the more popular people in my class, even among the other gifted students. I had an almost pathological fear of speaking in front of people. Couldn't do it to save my life. And yet you advanced to gunnery sergeant and command a unit of Marines. I'm getting to that. It was primarily the huge checklist we had to keep in mind when it came to speaking in front of a class, most of it preventing the speech from flowing naturally. The main focus of delivering the speech and getting your point to the audience was completely lost, and I struggled to figure out what was important and what wasn't, so I froze and couldn't talk at all. I was made to retake the class so many times, and I finally dropped it. When it comes to speaking in front of Marines, I only have one objective, and not having to worry about being graded because of my tone, my visual aids, or heaven forbid I didn't write an outline, really helped me feel more confident in speaking. I didn't think of it as public speaking. I thought of it as informing my troops on our mission. So it wasn't because you have a disorder. You felt so restrained by the class that you were afraid of fucking up, to the point where your brain froze. Gorman nodded. Never had difficulty speaking in front of Marines, though. I feel like I have to yell if I'm talking to a group, because I'm afraid someone might start crying or say, "Mommy, Jared pooped again." Well, here, you only have to yell if you're in combat, or your instructor says he can't hear you. Why do they want you to yell when they're right there and clearly not deaf? Enthusiasm. Makes sense. They didn't appreciate sarcastic enthusiasm much. I'm honestly surprised you're still in one piece if you did that. I'm a little surprised, too. Gorman smiled and glanced at the clock. Almost 4. I didn't think I'd enjoy talking to you, but I do. Don't tell anyone I said that. Starting to think you're not as big a hard-ass as I thought. Towers drew her legs up, resting her head on her knees. Thanks. I try. Aside from the very beginning, you haven't called me stupid or anything. You actually think I mean something, which I haven't gotten. I'm sorry. Can I give you a hug, or is that not allowed? Without a word, Gorman opened his arms. Towers squeezed him, and then whispered, I'm sorry about your coffee. About putting salt in it? That's fine. No need to apologize. No, before I came here to mess with your soap, I took out the grounds you prepared for this morning and put a potato in it. Gorman sighed. I won't get upset if you promise to fix it when you leave. Promise. "21:35. Waits marched back down to the spaceflight terminals with the airtight container. He held up the container as he approached Seegson Security and his 2 other marshals. We can put the bag in this. The security team was equipped only with gas masks and gloves. The head of the team glanced at his men before looking at Waits. Are you volunteering to go in there? Do you have a better idea? We were waiting for a Joe. We have no chemical weapons gear, Marshal. You shouldn't go in that ship. A few minutes passed before Working Joe strolled up to the scene. It muttered something about how this incident was being logged to Apollo, before Waits growled, "Put the suitcase inside this container. Got that?" The android lifelessly replied an affirmative before turning to board the ship with the container. Waits paced around and behind the Seegson security men. He wanted to run his fingers through his hair, but he was covered by the hazmat suit. The android eventually returned, stating the hazard was contained, though there were still traces of nerve gas throughout the ship. "Great, they brought nerve gas," one of the Seegson security men said. "When the passengers get out of quarantine, they're to be sent right to the Marshal Bureau. Whoever brought that shit here is going to regret the day they were born when I'm done with them," Waits muttered. Hazleton was still seated at his desk when Waits returned from decontamination. He slid a clipboard with report papers in Waits' direction. "When this is over, I'm contacting command about getting proper CBRN gear," Waits said. "We're lucky the hospital was able to provide us with a sterile box to put the suitcase in. Now we need someone to dispose of it." "I will contact someone to dispose of it, Waits. No one said you were in charge," Hazleton replied. "Credit where credit is due, sir," Ricardo said. "Waits did think of getting a container from the hospital." "Fine. What do you want, Waits? A pat on the back? A round of applause?" "Tell me, Hazleton, what would your spineless ass have done?" Waits was done biting his tongue. "Called a decontamination team and waited for them so they can properly handle it?" "It takes 3 weeks for anyone to get out here. By then, the whole terminal would have been flooded with nerve gas." "Seal it in the ship." "And then what? The decon team can't open the airlock or else the gas gets out. You'd have to disconnect the whole ship and let it float down to the gas giant. You think Seegson wants to pay that kind of money?" A new voice spoke up behind Waits. "No, we don't want to pay that kind of money." Waits turned around to see the same man he had seen with Lingard 2 weeks ago. Ransom, the one who was blackmailing her on a regular basis. He placed a hand on Waits' shoulder. "I should thank you for preventing a terrible crisis, Marshal Waits, is it? I don't think we've met yet. I'm Ransom." He held out his hand. Waits didn't return the gesture. "Nice to meet you. Now get out. Our business isn't yours." Ransom frowned. "As head Seegson executive, I have a right to know what you're doing here, Marshal. You know, for the good of Sevastopol." "Right." Waits pointed to the door. "Out." Ransom gave Waits a dirty look. "You can't. The marshals are not bound to whatever company is in charge of the station. Therefore, I can tell you to leave, and you can either obey my instructions, or I kick you out with my baton so far up your ass you'll feel it in your rib cage. Is that understood?" "Waits, that's enough," Hazleton said. "I'm getting real sick of you threatening everyone who doesn't listen to you right away. Give me your baton and your gun. You're going off duty for a few hours. Come back at 7 tonight. I think you need another night shift to teach you a lesson." Without a sound, Waits placed his baton and revolver on the desk before storming out of the bureau. He knew there was only one other person on this entire god-forsaken station who'd be sympathetic to him, and probably even happy that he tried to tell Ransom off. Hopefully, Lingard wasn't too busy at the moment. She was in her office, working on something from her computer, and glanced up when she saw Waits in the doorway. "Yes? You busy?" Waits asked. "Not really. Why? Do you mind if I talk to you?" "Is it medical related?" "No, but you'll want to hear it." "All right, what is it?" Waits closed the door behind him. "I got into an argument about Hazleton about how the nerve gas was handled. His plan was to call a decon team from another colony and wait. I said that waiting would just cause a bigger problem, and that we might have to just close the airlock and let the civvy ship float down toward the planet. My mistake was saying that Seegson wouldn't want to pay for that. Guess who was behind me after I said that?" "Ransom?" "Yep. Tried to congratulate me and everything. I told him he had no right to be in the bureau, and he tried arguing with me, so I threatened him. Hazleton was having none of that, and told me to hand in my baton and gun and go back later for an all-night shift." "You better hope Ransom doesn't put a target on your back." "No, you better pray he doesn't put a target on your back. You better hope your guardian angel hasn't taken a vacation if Ransom tries to screw around with you. Well, whatever happened, I'm not going to start sucking his dick for my safety. I'll get on the next transport out of here. Waits noticed a change in Lingard's expression, a sad one. He paused and sighed. Sorry for saying that, not that, sorry I'm leaving. I'm not leaving. You shouldn't have to stay if you don't want to. Would you miss me? I'm getting the impression that you'd miss me. What makes you say that? Your face changed when I said I'll get the next transport out of here. Lingard fell silent. Perhaps a little. I'd miss you, if that helps. I don't think it does. I mean, I know we've only talked a few times, but I'm the only person on this station capable of putting up with your abysmal people skills. Yeah, that. Well, Waits, I like you as a friend because you're honest. I'll take your brutal, unfiltered honesty over the frequent backstabbing and hiding and untrustworthiness of most other people here. Thanks. Why do you keep coming back? I like your company. You were nice to me when I first came here. It was partly because you had waves in your stomach. Yeah, and you're a doctor, so naturally you want to help. But you were still nice to me after I got better, and you trusted me with your unfortunate history with Ransom. That, after a very long time of not having personal companions, that meant something to me, as crazy and sappy as it sounds. Believe me when I say I don't talk about shit like this with a lot of people. We have a few things in common. We're both busy, tired, bored, wanting to get out of here. Lingard nodded, allowing silence to fall over her office. Waits rested his arms on Lingard's desk, then put his head down. I'm taking a nap. Wake me at 7, he muttered. A smile crossed Lingard's face, and she turned and tugged Waits's cap. Don't do that.